Passion our purpose, profit our pain. I don't want my name to ever be in vain. A life full of substance is the only thing that will remain the same. Millennial Thoughts. Welcome back to another episode of Millennial Thoughts with your girl Alicia. This is our relocation series. So I thought it'd be really cool to invite people to talk about why they relocated, when, and how. So today we have a special guest, Nikki. Hey, how are you doing this morning?
I'm well. I'm doing well.
So, yes, thanks so much for joining. We're going to be talking to her about her relocation and what she did, how she did it, and just giving some tips for people who are thinking about relocating, who could be in the situation or could want to move to the same place that she moved to. So, we're just going to basically have a conversation about best ways and some advice on relocating. So, my first question is, where did you move to and from where?
I moved to Atlanta, Georgia from Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Okay, that's interesting. I never really met that many people from Milwaukee. How was Milwaukee?
Milwaukee is I'll say it's interesting. It's different. It's it's Milwaukee. Like it has its own kind of culture. It has some great things and it has some, not so great things.
Oh, okay. So what made you move in general, I guess? Or but like also what made you move to Atlanta?
So what made me move in general was needing a change of scenery. I had been there all my life. Felt like I did so much. Like I work in, youth development and for the community, and I feel like I had reached my plateau of what I could contribute to the community there, and it was time for me to share my talents somewhere else, as well as I was tired of winters. Those winters there, it could get very cold.
Okay,
Um,
brutal up there. Okay.
yes, I mean you're talking about in the negative degrees, 10 inches of snow, having to dig yourself out. Yeah,
You was
I
over
kind of
it.
got tired of it. Yeah, I was over it, and so I prayed about it. I asked for a sign. It was either going to be South Carolina, Georgia, or Arizona. Um, and so I just started applying for jobs, and wherever I felt like I would land a job, that's where I would go. Um, Continue to pray about it, ask God to show me a sign. He showed me a sign, and Atlanta was where I ended up.
Okay, so you kind of just like applied for jobs kind of, and the sign was what job you got like in that state?
Yeah, so I knew I wanted to Atlanta because, like, I always heard, Atlanta was a good place for Black people, where Black people were thriving, doing businesses. Black people were the majority there, and that they were doing really good. So I'm like, I knew that that's something that I wanted to be a part of. I wanted to be a part of a community where Black people were doing great things.
Okay. And so how long have you been in Atlanta?
I've been in Atlanta 5 years now.
Okay, and so do you feel like the reason you moved worked out?
Definitely. I could definitely say that, my life has changed in various aspects, the level of peace, more importantly, that I've accomplished a lot since I've moved to Georgia. I can't say some of the things I probably wouldn't have accomplished if I, would have still been there, but it still happened while I was here. Um, I make way more money than I was making. Um, the type of houses I've lived in is definitely been better. Um, So I say that it was definitely the best decision I
Mhm.
made, not just for myself, but for my family.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna ask that too. Well, do you have any like children?
Yes, I have three.
Oh, so you have three, so you had to move with kids. So how was that? Like, I don't know how old your kids was like when you moved, but like having to think about like schooling and having to think about like, oh, where are we gonna move at? Like, did you do like a scouting trip or anything like that? Did you just like come straight like I'm moving to Atlanta, I got a job by Milwaukee?
So how it happened was my oldest son had he had made a decision that he wanted to try to go, to go stay with his dad for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and my daughter stayed with my sister for a little bit just until I could get situated.
Oh,
When I first came down, I rented a room for with a friend. Um,
okay.
yeah, and it just so happened that after a few weeks, the place next door to her ended up freeing up, so I ended up moving there. So I
Oh,
ended up getting, yeah, have my own place. So then my daughter was able to come on down. And
oh,
then later on in the year, my sons ended up coming.
oh, okay, okay. You said sons. That's really good. I really like that perspective. So also like, well, like leaning on your village, but like, having help, like you were able to rent a room. So that's a cool way that I talked about that too, like renting a room and then having that support to be able to come down here and get your feet together and then like bring your kids back. So that's also too, because I know a lot of people are always thinking like, I can't move because I have kids and stuff like that. So I like how
Hmm.
you said like, okay, you go. He went with his dad, your daughter went to her friends or different things like that to be able to kind of like use your community and kind of like better yourself as in like you were coming to Atlanta to like, have a different outlook on life. So I know you've
Yeah.
been here for like 5 years. So I don't know if you remember this. Um, you might or you might not. But do you remember how much it cost like for like you to move? Like everything? Um,
Um, so what I did was I sold almost everything in my house up in Milwaukee. I sold except for whatever could fit in my car at that time. Um,
okay.
so I sold and gave away a lot of stuff, and that's what I drove down with. So because I figured, it'd probably be better to start brand new.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I didn't come down with much money, because I knew I had a job in place, and then I knew I had money coming in. So I think I left with maybe $2,500.
Mm-hmm.
But it's because when I came down here, I knew I had a job in place. And the job, when I came for the interview, they was like, you had to be here by a certain date.
Yes.
So
Mm-hmm.
I came by that certain date. So I only had like $2,500, but I knew I had a 401k cashing out coming in like within the next month or so. And then,
Mm-hmm.
I knew tax time was right in, January, February, because I moved in November.
Okay.
So December, I knew my 401k was coming. January, February, I knew tax time was coming. So I
Okay.
got blessed. Huh?
Oh no, I said okay, like that's smart. I was just like agreeing.
Yeah, yeah. And so I got blessed that when the place that I moved into, I didn't have to pay a security deposit. I just had to pay first month's rent.
Oh, that's
So,
good.
yeah, so that kind of worked out a lot for me. In that, I think it's just one of the things. It's like you got to really lean on your relationship with God and trust that the move is in your steps, like it's in your plan and the plan that God has for you. And for me, it was definitely in my plan, just how things ended up happening and working out.
Hmm. Yeah, I talk about that too a little bit, like when to move and different things like that. And I like that, like you moved in November. I mean, all in God's plan. I don't know if you thought about it, but like November, okay. And you're like, oh, tax season coming. So like you didn't really think about it. You had money saved up, but you kind of like came, you kind of just made it work. So it's also being
Mhm.
smart, like when you move, like the months that you move, the time that you moved. And I like that too, because some people do be selling all their stuff because people like to start fresh and different things like that when they go to a new city. So I think that that is really cool too. And just like knowing that you have a job down here. But were you not nervous or scared? Like were you like, oh my gosh, like is this really gonna happen? Because I know some people get nervous, like, okay, what if this job falls through? Or like, what if they don't pay me? Like, did you have any thoughts like that?
That's the funny part. So, so when I got here, when I made up my mind, I had already had a job with APS as a substitute teacher,
Mm,
which I like that because it was a flexibility. I could pick and choose what jobs I wanted to and where I wanted to go. I
mm-hmm,
also had an opportunity to work at this place called Youth Villages, which is like a youth place for mental disabilities, um, which was the actual job that told me I had to be here by a certain date. However, in Milwaukee, everything is about 10, 15 minutes. You could get everywhere in 10, 15 to 20 minutes. So for this place was about 30, 45 minutes from me, and that's something I wasn't used to. In
mm,
addition to that, the hours. So like it was one of those places where you work. Um, 12-hour shifts, 2 days, 3 days a week, and then weekends, it was a 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. shift. And with my daughter, I wasn't going to be able to do that shift.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up turning down that job.
Mm.
Um, I had an opportunity to be a director for a new company, well, a new location that NECO was doing, which is a place for foster care children and everything. They were opening up a new location in Columbus.
Mm-hmm.
Columbus was
Too.
about an hour from me,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit over an hour. So I turned that job down because of the distance, not realizing that in Georgia, it was common for people to travel that far.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like for me, it was like no. So I ended up turning down a lot of jobs that I had,
What?
thinking that, oh, you know what, you got the skills. Because I came down here with 5 job offers. Like it was like these are your jobs. One
Oh,
was the
that's
APS, one was working with the Boys and Girls Club, and then one was with youth villages, one was with NECO, and then one was with uh correctional officer with George. I mean with them, but
okay. I
I
need to
could.
bring you back for my career series. Okay, 5 job offers.
Yeah, so it's like, but I was scared to do the fitness test because they was like, they got to spray you with mace
Oh.
and you got to run this mile, and I wasn't in a position to do all that. So I ended up taking that job for that. And then so I ended up with only the APS job and the Boys and Girls Club job.
Mm.
However, even with both of those, I was able to pay my rent and everything, but it wasn't enough, and it wasn't nowhere near what I was used to making. But that was my fault because I came in overly confident. I'm like, oh, I'll be able to get a job in no time. Just like I got these job offers, jobs gonna be knocking at my door. I got this degree, I got this skill set, I got this and this and this and this.
Mm-hmm.
Nah, Georgia's different because what I didn't realize is back home, Anita tell you how many people apply for the job. So back home, you could apply for a job and maybe 50 other people may apply. Down here, you're competing with thousands of
Yes.
people applying for that job. I mean, people with masters, doctorates, degrees,
Mm-hmm.
everything from prestigious colleges, and then here go little old me. So it's like it was a humbling moment to learn that you could have all that, ain't gonna matter in Georgia. It just
Yes,
ain't.
yes, I learned that too. That is, it's like, oh my gosh, 300 people applied. So like, you just ended up like taking those jobs and you like stopped applying for other jobs. Is that?
I continued to apply for other jobs, and it's just that wasn't nothing hitting. Like, and I struggled my
You said,
Yeah, I struggled the first year but I think it was something I needed to learn. I needed to learn how to lean on and have faith in God.
mm-hmm,
So that was my lesson through that. So through that, I needed to struggle because it made me lean on God more.
mm-hmm. I'm
It
still struggling. It's my second year.
yeah, it made me learn finances a little bit different. It
Mm-hmm,
made me learn my skill, and how my mindset was different. Because even in that time, like I did some side jobs, like I used to sell bedroom candy, so I used to do the parties. But even with that, going to see different houses and how Black people were really living, really motivated me and inspired me. And so I just kept the faith that things were going to get better. So
mm-hmm.
I what I ended, so I did that, and then I ended up getting a job with the Department of Revenue Motor Vehicle Division, because everybody's like, oh, state jobs are the best, and this and this and this and that. And so when they promised me, like, okay, there's going to be room for advancement, there's opportunities for you to move up. After being there for a few weeks, because again, the money still wasn't good. They thought they were paying us good. I'm like, this is not good. And the benefits were horrible. Like most of my check went to benefits. And I'm
Yes.
like, benefits that I'm not even using. So it was
Okay.
like, so I struggled really bad, but I just kept praying and praying. And then one day God said, open up your horizons, open up, you gotta step outside of your comfort zone. And so I started applying for jobs outside of Atlanta. And as soon as I did that, it was a position for the Boys and Girls Club in Newton County. Never heard of Newton County. That's out in Covington. And so I said, okay. So I applied. So that was about an hour from me. And I applied. I went out there. I was like, this is the countryest thing I've ever seen. I've never been in the side of the country. But I said, I'm gonna see what to do. And so I applied, I got the job. So I was able to start the very first Boys and Girls Club in Newton County.
Oh, that's
Um,
dope. Congratulations.
so, but even with that, it was like, okay, you're out here, you got to move out here.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and it just so happened like I moved out there. So I ended up getting a job like 3 minutes away from, I mean, getting a place 3 minutes out there. So I was out in Covington for a little bit. And Covington is, is really different. Um, it's really different. So, but I did that for about 2 years. But even then, like that's where I started seeing the transition of, okay, now I'm back to that, really enjoying what Georgia loving is, seeing the scenery, being able to pay my bills, live comfortably, have a nice, beautiful house that the kids can enjoy,
Mm-hmm.
um, and everything. So I did that. And then it was just like, God was ready for me to move and do something different. So I applied for Metro Atlanta Boys and Girls Club. And that's the position that I'm at now, as a site director in Metro Atlanta. And now I've moved to Fairburn to be closer because driving an hour to Covington wasn't going to cut it for me.
Yes.
Um, so now I'm in Fairburn and I love the house that I'm in. I love the area, the neighborhood. It's just like really having that peace and being, comfortable in your home. And I think that's what I have right now.
Mhm.
And expensive, but for now it's okay.
That's what I'm saying. That's good. I like that kind of trajectory, that story. Did you ever think about moving back to Milwaukee in this like transition
Oh
of
yeah.
down here?
Yes, definitely. My first year, like after like that, and when I was struggling because it was like, you know what, when you left, you weren't doing bad. Like you had a nice place. My car was still new at that time. I had a decent job that provided, I wasn't struggling. I didn't need for anything. My kids didn't need for anything. So to go from that to a point where, because again, the place we stayed in was a 2 bedroom. I had 3 kids. So just
Hmm.
imagine 3 kids sharing one room. So it was just like, and then it's just, barely making enough to do anything extra. I'm basically only working to pay bills,
Hmm.
having to borrow people, money from people. And it's like but not being able to tell anybody else that. Like, so, people being, seeing one thing on Facebook, one thing, letting people, see one thing and think on Facebook, oh, she's doing good. She's down in Atlanta. She's living her life, but then secretly struggling behind, that. So, feeling like, damn, as a mother, did I fail my kids? Did I put us in a position, you know, a wrong, did I do something bad? Like, should I just say, maybe I should go back? Because I still have people in Milwaukee that if I move back today, I got a job easily.
Hmm.
So it was just like, should I go back? But then I had to think about it. If you go back, you're starting completely over. You don't have nowhere to stay. You don't have a job right now, although you could get one. You still don't have one. So it's like you still have to live with somebody. You would still have to do that. So it's like at least here you have somewhere to stay. You have this. So, I was like, you know what? Let me just pray a little bit harder. Let me stick it out a little bit more because it's bad, but it's not that bad.
Okay, okay, that's a great perspective. So talking about like you're working, finding a place and stuff like that, how do you feel like how long it took you to adjust into like your new city and like build community?
Honestly, I think I'm still building community. I think I'm just now in a position to really like I'm really starting to build my community. And kind of branching out and trying to, look at new networks and kind of really finding myself. It took me a minute to really figure out what it is that I wanted to do and who I wanted to be in this role down here. So I
Mm-hmm.
think now I'm just discovering that. I'm still building networks. I don't really have too many friends outside of, my coworkers, which is, or, coworkers that I've met in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really go to many places, which I'm trying to change that, but I'm a homebody. Especially like, I've invested in my home to make my home as comfortable as possible. So it's kind of hard to get out of that. But with the things that I plan to do, and I think the plans that God has for me, I have to start, going outside. I have to start networking. I have to start, being around people and everything like that. So
Okay, so you still feel like you're still working at it, still trying
still
to.
working it. I think it's the thing about Atlanta in Georgia is in general is just it's so big.
Hmm.
So you have to really find your niche. You have to really, discover yourself for one and really find, where you fit in what you want to do. and those networks will come. And I think I'm just now getting to that. I'm just now, crossing paths with the people that I think, will be in that network.
Okay, I see what you're saying. That is really, really cool. That's what I'd be asking that question, like, how long is it going to take? How long? But you're still sticking it out, so that is great because some
Mhm.
people be like ready to go and they'll go to the
Yeah.
next thing.
I've had a couple of people that I know that, came down and, it's different, like, especially, from back home. Like, back home is very small in a community where almost everybody knows everybody. Or if they don't know each other, somebody that knows somebody, that knows somebody. So, but coming down here, like, you may not know nobody and nobody may know you. And so some people that's a transition. It's hard, like, not having that. So, but for me, like I said, I could be a homebody. I'm fine at home, cool by myself.
Mhm.
So, but I am at getting to that point where, I do want to be able to do events and stuff and, have that kind of support that I had back home. So it's like,
Mhm.
I'm just now getting to that point where I'm looking into that and what that looks like.
Do you feel like you go back to Milwaukee a lot for like holidays and different things like that? Or do you feel like you kind of are settled down in Atlanta that you don't really go back?
I think I'm transitioning to being more settled down in Atlanta. So like normally I go back up for Thanksgiving, and then I go back up in around May or June to drop the kids off because they go with their dads for the summer, and then I go pick them back up in July because school starts in August.
Mhm.
Um, but I found out this past year I just haven't. I think I spent a week last May in Milwaukee, which kind of soaked up a lot of my Milwaukee energy. So like I haven't been back. So like even with the kids, I had their dads bring them back so that I didn't have to go. I decided for Thanksgiving that, I wanted to stay here and cook here, so I didn't go back up there for Thanksgiving. I think mainly because it's like, I've been down here 5 years. I would want them to come down here,
Mhm.
come experience the life that I created for myself down here. Like I spent so much money traveling up there and taking the kids and everything. Like but I've been down here 5 years. They haven't came down here, and I'm like, I feel like I created such a life down here that one, I want them to be proud of, but even to be proud of, you got to see it. So
Mhm.
it's like I think I just got to the point where I don't see myself spending too much money to continuously go up there. I
Mhm.
may go sometimes because my mom is still there, my dad is still there, my siblings are still there, and other my other family. So eventually, I think I may go back. Like I may go back in May because again, I got to take the kids up there. So, but I don't see myself going back
Like
before
you don't
that.
go back often. Hmm.
No. Mm.
Hmm.
Especially during the winter months. I don't go during the winter months. They
Okay.
can have
Like y'all need to come down here, but they be trying to say that it's not cold in Atlanta. They be lying because it be cold down here too. So I'd be like, I'm
it.
confused. It's not no snow, but it be cold.
Yeah, Atlanta code and Milwaukee code is two different things.
Hmm.
So because it's like Atlanta codes, you can have a 40-degree day one day, but then you may have a 70-degree day again. You can have
Hmm.
a 40-degree day for like weeks, but when you felt negative below and 20 and 10 and 5 and at least in Atlanta when it gets to a certain code, they're gonna close everything, they're gonna shut everything down. In Milwaukee, if it get it's like it's drastic for them to shut everything down. So
Hmm.
like we still had to get out and go to work, and it's been 10 inches of snow, negative wind chill, and you still got to go out there and you just gonna dig yourself out the car, dig your car out the snow, and you're gonna
Hmm.
drive back to slow, but you still gonna go to work. Here
Yeah,
in Atlanta, if
definitely.
there's a threat of snow, everything is gonna shut down. If it's gonna
Yeah.
be too cold, freezing
But
temperatures.
I know, and I think that that's interesting though, because when the North people come down here, they be like, what is this? I can do this. Like, but these people down here, they like, I don't know what that is. Like they be so confused.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, and I had to learn because I'm like, even with that, like with me being experienced in it, you got to understand that Atlanta's not built for it. So it's like, it's even just different, like, things you have to factor and consider. So up north, a lot of our power lines and stuff like that is built under the ground. So it allows for the ground to heat up, where in Georgia, everything is built on top of the ground. So when everything freezes up, there's nothing to kind of warm it. So that's why it becomes dangerous. It becomes
Mm.
slippery and everything. So that's what I had to learn because I'm like, why they like it's nothing even out there. It's nothing, but it's like when you get to the technical stuff, it's just, it's just it's something that's not gonna take overnight to change. So
Uh-huh.
you gotta understand the mindset of, and then it's like with that, you could be a perfect driver, but if other drivers are not, they get scared,
Mhm.
they get nervous. Even when it rains down here in Georgia, like when it rains down here, people drive crazy. So
Mhm.
it's just like, understanding that is one what they're used to, and then it's just like the conditions and just how everything is prepared. So
Mhm.
that's what makes the difference. Like even with salt, like I think the first year I came down here, it snowed, and it was like that was like the first time it snowed in like 10 years. And of
Mhm.
course, everybody blamed me because I still had my Wisconsin license plates. But it was just even that me and my the roommate, we were trying to find salt. Like we had to literally try to buy salt from Amazon
Yeah.
because
Oh, yeah, 'cause
there
they didn't have
wasn't
no
enough
salt.
stores here. Yeah, like I don't even think Family Dollar sold shovels. And so it was just like, why don't they sell shovels? But then it's like, how often does it
It
really
is
snow
not.
in Georgia? So why
Mm,
would we stock up on shovels and it doesn't snow here like that? So
mhm.
so it's
Yeah,
just like
that's
learning.
interesting. Yeah, the way that it was built, the way that is, that's cool to know, or something to observe, like how the northern states are kind of built for it, and southern states are not built for it, and it's different because they're not like going to get it as much. So that's
Mhm.
cool. So yeah, just to like wrap it up with a few questions. I know that you've been talking a lot about like career and different things like that and family. So I was gonna ask, what do you think is the most important factor when it comes to moving?
I think the most important factor is doing your research, um, learning what it is that you really want and need. So you get some people who come down here because they really want a good school system.
Mhm,
So, doing your research on what the school system is and what you need. Housing, it ain't easy to get a house down here. Um, and that's one thing that I was different, like paying all these application fees and applying for this and you still not getting. It's like, what do you mean I got the work history, I got the so just really doing your research of what is required to move in and just doing your distance of, where you're gonna be working. So it's like I challenge people to know what you're gonna work, where you're gonna be working at first and kind of, decide where you want to live based on that. And that's just me personally. Like I don't like to stay far from work. Like I need to be, I think 25 to 30 minutes is my max because when I get off work, I don't want to be driving for an hour because that gets me irritable. So it's like being close proximity to, where I work at is big for me. Especially just even when you think about if you have kids, if there's an emergency, you want to be able to get there, in enough time, and you want to be able to, make that happen. So I think it's just doing the research areas, research what you need. Because like I said, I when I first came down here, I was in Atlanta. I was in like Smyrna area, which was cool. Um, and then when I moved out to Covington, it was different. Nobody wants to come out to Covington, and you're far from everything. So it was like, when I moved back to, working with Metro Atlanta, I knew I wanted to be closer to the city. But I like Fairburn because Fairburn is still the outskirts. It's not in Atlanta. It's still like the outskirts. It's a very nice area, but I'm still close enough to get to the city. I get to the airport in 15 minutes. So if I got to go pick somebody up, I could get there in 15 minutes. If I want to do something in Atlanta, I could get to Atlanta in 25 minutes. So it was just like, research what it is you want, what you need, and kind of just make your decision off of that. And I say, don't listen to other people's experiences because everybody's experience is going to be different. And it's also going to be different based off of what's aligned and what's for them. So some people can't, handle certain areas. And it's also the area you choose to live in. That makes a lot in what your experience is going to be. Like, I don't hit a lot of traffic where I'm at. I got lucky. Like with Fairburn, I don't hit a lot of traffic. Even if I leave work at 5 o'clock during, the after work traffic, I'm only in that traffic maybe 5 minutes because then I'm getting off on, the next exit. So it's like I think those are, important factors to really, really think about, really plan it out and what you need. Like I tell people all the time, they think they need a lot of money to move. I say have enough. If you have a job in place, you have enough to, cover where if you have your, where you're gonna live at in place. I think you don't really need a lot of money if that's what your desire is to move, but make sure that it's really aligned in your path to really move.
Yes, I definitely agree. And I would say I do love the Fairburn area and the Smyrna area. And that was really cool because people do talk about the traffic is horrible, but I know some people who don't have traffic because it depends on how close you live and stuff like that to where you're working. So I think that that is very important. And to know like what you're moving for and if you're looking for a job, if you're looking for, to go, live out your dreams or something like that, or you just want to get out your state and try something new. So I definitely agree with you. And I think those are really, really great tips. Um, and I wanted to say just, thanks for joining. Thanks for sharing your experience
Oh, you're welcome.
of relocating to Atlanta from Milwaukee. And also I wanted to say for whoever is listening, if you all are looking to, relocate, different things like that, I do have a relocation expense tracker. If you go to the description, there'll be a link there so that you can get your relocation expense tracker because I also feel it's really important to know your expenses, how much you are going to be spending,
Mhm.
so that you can make a smoother transition. Some people they don't care about expenses, but I know that that can be a barrier as well when you are moving.
Very big thing.
So yeah, definitely. So I thank you for all your tips and all your advice for the people. Do you have any, last things you want to say? Any last tips or advice for the people that's listening?
Um, no, like I said, it was, the best decision for me. It's aligned with everything that I was supposed to do. The thing about it is with my relationship with God, God is always going to move me where he needs me to be. And so I think a lot of times it's just listening, and
Hmm.
just, listening and being waiting for the signs. Like when I decided I was going to move, I had to pray about it. Like I prayed about it. Like at first I was like, okay, well, you know what? I'm gonna wait to the end of the school year, or I'm gonna wait till tax time. Then I said, you know what? God, just show me a sign. And when I see this sign, I need to know that this sign is from you. And he gave me that sign, and it was a sign I couldn't ignore. And so I was just like, all right, well, I'm on the next thing moving. And you can't be afraid. I think a lot of things that prevents people from moving is being afraid. I was nervous at first. I didn't know a lot of people in Georgia. Milwaukee, I've been in Milwaukee all my life. So it was like, going into new territories, like even though I have family down here, it's not the same, so it's like, being able to say like, hey, I want to go here and go eat. Somebody pull up on me. Can't necessarily do that and you don't know nobody. So it's just like, it's just different. So it's like, it's one of those things that you have to be comfortable with being alone, and knowing that, in the beginning, you may not have those same networks. But if it's for you, if it's in a line, sort start, I mean, if it's a line in the stars for you, it's going to happen. And, and don't give up when things don't necessarily go the way you want them to go, because there's probably a lesson in there. And that lesson that you learned is what's going to help you, in the future. So sometimes you have to kind of recognize that and pay attention to that.
Yes, I definitely agree because they were like, oh, like long distance family is not the same as close family. They were like, oh yeah, I got family out here, but they do not be coming through like you hope they do, or people think they gonna come through. So that is true.
Mhm.
Like learning how to be alone by yourself is definitely a good lesson when it comes to relocating. If you don't already have like immediate like family, like a sister, like a close cousin.
Right,
Yes,
because other
definitely,
people
definitely.
they're living their life too. So it's like,
Hmm.
you don't expect them to just be willing to drop everything for you. So
Hmm. Yeah, they not willing to do that out here. But yeah, so I want to say thank you all so much for listening to this episode. Make sure you share this episode with someone who's wanting to relocate to Atlanta or somewhere else. Or also make sure you leave a review and rate the podcast and stay tuned for the next episode.
awesome.